Alrighty, it being 6:30 on Wednesday, September 1st, 2021. We're going to open this meeting of the Bridgewater Planning Board. Pursuant to Governor Baker's June 16th, 2021 Act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, and his March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. This meeting of the Bridgewater Planning Board will be conducted in person and via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time. This meeting is being recorded, and within 48 hours, we will post a link of the recording on the town's website and/or other town social media page. The following members of the Bridgewater Planning Board are participating remotely: Michael McDonald, Vice Chair; Raymond Ajemian; Jean Garino, Clerk; Steve Geller; Astrid Rojas, who's an Associate Member; and Julia Santarcangelo, who's also an associate member. Chair Pat Driscoll has a conflict for this first public hearing and will be joining the meeting later. So I believe our first item is, sorry, I lost my page here. I believe our first item is 161 Summer Street for a site plan review. So if the applicant's here, we can begin.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask for a point of understanding here? I had an agenda that said that there was no in-person meeting, but you just indicated that it was both.
That's the I believe that's just the boilerplate notice they give. I don't think anybody's participating in person today, to the best of my knowledge.
There is no in-person meeting, Larry. I'm sorry, that was misread.
Oh, okay. All right, because I just told my client that he had to go through Zoom. Okay, so tonight, this is Lawrence Silva from Silver Engineering Associates. So tonight you get the B team because Rebecca's not doing the meeting tonight. So there were a couple of items that were outstanding at the last meeting. And one of them was that the board was requiring a landscape plan. And the second was that there was concern about the lots being separate. There were two lots. They wanted to see the two lots combined. So a plan was put together to combine the two, and it was recorded at the registry. And as you can see on the screen, that's the information regarding compliance with that comment. And then as far as the second one, which was the landscape plan, a landscape plan with sufficient detail for plantings and so forth has been provided. And that is also on the screen right now. And so I believe that those were the two items that required the continuation to tonight's meeting. And I would answer whatever questions you might have.
Yeah, I believe the comment from the department was that this does now meet everything we had previously asked for. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. You do have the director of DPW on the line if you had any questions for him as well.
Okay, I guess we'll open it up to board questions then.
The only question, just to repeat what the chair said, I just wanted to clarify that the Economic Development Committee and Mr. Antonaro have agreed that this meets the requirements that we had from the last meeting. That's all. It seems fine to me.
From the department's perspective and the planning perspective, it meets everything the board had asked for. I can't speak for DPW and engineering.
It looks like a Zoom just got on. Perfect. Does DPW have any comments on this?
Yes, Mr. Chair, good afternoon, DPW Director. I have reviewed the supplemental information, and I believe that the outstanding questions that we had and comments have been satisfactorily addressed, Mr. Chairman.
Excellent.
We just need the proof of recording of that plan provided to the CED for its record.
I believe that was provided to our office this afternoon.
Very good. That's all my comments.
Thank you very much.
So I'm good. Yes, sir.
All right, any other board questions? Otherwise, maybe we can entertain a motion.
Well, it is a public hearing. You may want to ask if
Oh.
there's public that have questions.
Apologize. Do we have anybody from the public that would like to speak on this?
I don't see anybody in the chat or anybody with their hand raised at this time.
Okay. So just a procedure question. So when we close, would I entertain a motion to close the public hearing first?
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it. Jean.
Okay, any discussion? All right, so I believe this is a roll call vote. Just get that up here. Okay, Mr. Jemian,
Yes.
Mrs. Garino,
Yes.
Mr. Geller.
You're muted,
I think you're
Steve.
muted.
I mean, it's-
Sorry, I muted because I was getting a lot of feedback. The answer is yes.
Jennifer, since we're short a member, would one of the associates need a vote on this?
No, because it's not a special permit.
Okay, and I am a yes. So that will close the public hearing portion of this. Any further discussion by the board? Firstly, I have no problems with this project. Now that everything's been met, I'm comfortable going ahead myself.
Mr. Chair, I have one quick question. Is there any proposal of a dumpster on this site? Because I don't see it.
Let me pull up my plan better. I thought I saw something for that.
Maybe Mr. Silva can answer the question. He would know quickly.
Yeah, Mr. Silva knows offhand.
You're on mute. You're on mute, Mr. Silva.
There is, during construction, obviously there would be. As far as an operation, there was not a plan for a dumpster. It would be done basically with containers and a trash service.
Okay. So I asked, I was just sure I want to see an enclosure and everything else. So, but there's not one on site, so I'm good.
Okay, anybody else got anything?
Larry's still talking, but he's on mute.
That's a condition that everybody wants to put me on. But as far as if you want to put a condition in your decision that says, should they ever want to change to that it would have to be an enclosed dumpster. I think that might be a good condition to put on, on the decision. There is none planned at this point.
Yeah, that sounds fair.
Then I have another question. Is there any parking lot lighting that's going to be there?
There was no, the only thing that was, I don't even know if it was actually shown on wasn't shown as part of the landscape. There wasn't really any serious lighting. There's a light pole on the landscaping drawings. You can see them there. That's really where it's shown. There's one in the front yard, and there's ones, there's lease lighting or existing utility pole, the guide wire to remain. They were going to be on those that would be directed in towards the parking lot. There is nothing that would be creating stray light to the neighboring properties. But you do see the lights specified on the landscape plan.
Yeah, I do see it now. I just want to see if they're not going to cast any lighting or any shadows.
Yeah, the light standard is also per what is normally used in the area of the university. And that was shown on the on our drawings, on the civil drawings. On the details page, there was a light pole detail.
Okay, I have no more questions.
Any other board questions? Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the plans that have been submitted with that added condition, should they decide to add a dumpster, that it be fully enclosed. And all our other standard conditions of approval.
I'll second the motion.
Do we have any discussion? All righty, we'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Ajemian,
Yes.
Mrs. Garino,
yes,
Mr. Geller,
Yes,
and I'm a yes.
Okay, I just have to text Pat to let him know we're all set.
Gotcha.
Sorry, I was behind the 8 ball.
That's okay. We can take the other two in the meantime. Should be pretty easy. Let me just pull up my agenda here. Okay,
Do you need
so
the
I
agenda
believe
put up on the screen?
I have it up. Thank you. Okay, so I believe one of these was a continuation request and one of these was a withdrawal. Is that correct?
So we had a request for a withdrawal without prejudice for Lot 1 Scotland Boulevard. If you want to, if the board is willing to consider that with request, you can request a motion.
Okay. Do we need to close up a public hearing on that first, or?
Can anyone hear Michael?
yeah, he said, do we need to close the public hearing on it first?
Looks like we might be having some.
Oh, no, I think my headset was just off. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, I was just asking, do we need to close a public hearing on that before we vote on that, or?
No, if they're requesting a withdrawal without prejudice, you can just move to withdraw without prejudice.
Okay. Do we have a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to have Scotland Boulevard withdraw without prejudice.
I will second it, but I would first like to hear the letter withdrawal read into the record, please.
That's a good idea. I'm not actually sure if I have that letter.
Hold on 1 second. Hasn't, do you have it? Can you put it up on screen? All right, I'm happy to read it if you want.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Thank you.
This is dated August 30th, 2021, to the Bridgewater Planning Board, dear members, on behalf of Theodore Parker Jr., trustee, applicant, Collins Civil Engineering Group, Inc., hereby submits a request to withdraw without prejudice from the public hearing. If I may be of further assistance regarding this matter, please contact me at my office at the number above. Sincerely, David Clennert, College Engineering Group, Inc.
Okay, thank you very much. So I believe we had a motion by Mrs. Garino and a second by Mr. Ajemian.
Correct.
Is there any further discussion? Okay, we'll take a vote. Mr. Ajemian,
Yes.
Mrs. Garino,
Yes,
Mr. Geller,
Yes,
and I'm a yes. Okay, next item is Swordham Way, and I believe we have a continuation request for this one. Let's see if I have that request.
Read that letter as well if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be excellent. Thank you.
Dated September 1st, 2021 from Silver Engineering Associates regarding oh no, I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. I'm sorry.
On screen if you just.
September 1st, yeah, it's on the screen. To the planning board, dear board members, on behalf of our client, Silva Engineering Associates would like to request a continuation from the meeting scheduled for September 1st, 2021 to the next scheduled meeting on September 15th. We are awaiting the final review from the town engineer for our client to secure a letter from the abutter at 60 Copperfield Drive to allow grading onto their property. They currently have a verbal agreement to allow the work shown on the current plans. Sincerely, Larry P. Lawrence P. Silva, PESE President.
Okay, excellent. So do we typically take public comment when we're just doing a continuation on a public hearing like that, or do we just go
You
into the?
don't, but since the author of the continuation request is in the audience, if Mr. Silva has anything to add to the request, you can certainly ask him.
Yeah, that'd be if you have anything, Mr. Silva.
No, I would just like to point out, we did receive a comment letter from the town engineer this afternoon. So we, and I've had a conversation with him. We will work to address the comments that he had. They were, I want to say, I thought very manageable, and that we will have everything in order so that at the next meeting, we would hope that the board will be able to take action.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. We have a motion on the continuation request.
Mr. Chairman, I think we first have the issue of when this plan reach its deadline. And I
Oh,
think
of course.
we have a meeting on the 15th regarding zoning, and I'm not sure how we're going to do this. Any plan on this?
I believe your meeting on the 15th, though, Mr. Ajanian, may not move forward, correct me if I'm wrong, based on our workshop last week. I thought our conversation last week was that the planning board and the community economic development committee wanted to continue in a workshop fashion. And so I guess I was under the impression that that joint hearing may get continued on the 15th.
If it doesn't, we're in a little bit of a bind then.
Well, if it doesn't, it would just have a long meeting if you continued this. I mean, you have an agreement you have a request from them to extend the time to act until September 17th. So you can continue it to the 15th with no additional agreement from them. If you wanted to continue it out further, you'd need agreement from the applicant.
Any input on that, Mr. Silva?
This process has been kind of a long process. And, we really would like to be heard on the 15th if it was at all possible.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I do find it likely the zoning discussion is going to be moved back. I believe that was kind of the general feel.
All right, I'll make the motion that we continue this hearing to September 15th.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I got one quick question. Didn't Larry's letter 17th and not the 15th?
No, his request was to continue to your next meeting, which is the 15th. But his extension was for an additional 30 days, which brought you to the September 17th date. Those are the two different dates.
Does that request need to be voted on as well, or is that
No, that had been already taken care of at the last meeting.
okay? All right, so I believe we have a motion by Ray, a second by Ms. Garino. No further discussion. We'll take a vote. Mr. Ajemian,
Yes.
Mrs. Garino,
yes,
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay,
I believe Mr. Driscoll has joined us.
pass the reins back to him. Thank you for the help.
Oh, Mr. Silver has his hand raised.
Oh.
Did you need to speak on something, Mr. Silver?
I just wanted to point out that if, for whatever reason, things come up and you are not able to do it on the 15th because of that joint meeting, that we will make provisions to adjust things at that point, so that you can do what you need to do.
Thank you very much.
If I may, before Mr. Driscoll takes over, I just want to compliment the vice chair on conducting a good meeting, and in particular, doing a superb job of pronouncing my last name. Outstanding, Michael.
I do what I can. Thanks. The help was very appreciated too.
Michael, if you want to continue, go ahead. If not, I'll take over for you, whatever you want to do.
Oh yeah, why don't you take the reins on these last ones? I'm still learning the ropes on this.
So I assume just because I wasn't on, you got through all three of those public meetings, or do we still have the letter to read in for Scotland Boulevard?
We're on the public meetings now, the A and R and the Elm Street request.
Great. So we have an A&R that. Can you bring that up? When was this? What was the date of this application? August 15th. So we really have to.
It looks like it was the 12th, I believe.
No, the date received was August 16th.
Oh, whoops.
All right, so we have to get this done today then, right? Because 20 days.
Yes. Yes.
All right, so is somebody from is the applicant or applicant's representatives here with us this evening for 1861 Plymouth Street?
Mr. DeFray, sorry, how do you pronounce your name?
Yep, DeFrias.
DeFrias.
Antonio DeFrias from Michael Koska and Associates. We represent Mr. Hewins on the A&R application before you. What we have here is an existing dwelling known as 1861 Plymouth Street, which was comprised of two parcels on Assessors Map 27, known as lots 1 and 11. And what we're proposing here is this is located in an industrial A zone. We're proposing to take those two parcels and eliminate and combine them into a single lot which conforms to the industrial A requirements with frontage of 200 feet and area greater than 40,000 square feet. We also have 22,879 square feet of upland because part of this lot is comprised of a bordering vegetated wetland. The second piece you see is a parcel A that is not a buildable lot at this time. It does not have sufficient frontage. And that parcel will probably be conveyed to an abutter who happens to be the applicant. This property was in the family. The mother had recently passed away, and so the family has decided to put this dwelling on its own lot and put it on the market. So we do have the proper frontage of 200 feet. We do have access through the frontage. We are fronting on a public way, which is Plymouth Street. And we do have access to the dwelling, which is currently vacant. And a few months ago, it did have a new septic system installed. So we're asking that the board endorse the A&R as shown, as presented.
Okay. Tony, the non-buildable lot, the wetland, that looks like in the middle is an isolated wetland.
Yes, there's partially an ILSF on that property, but the wetland line does continue from east to west direction towards the abutter.
All right, so most of that, so that wetland line doesn't stop there, it continues through.
Yes, yes. That lot is not buildable on its own because it does not have sufficient frontage. That lot only contains 111.30 feet of frontage. So they're shy, what's that, 88.7 feet. So there isn't anything that he could do at this time. If there was something to be done, I'm only going to speculate that would probably be at some point maybe combined with other land of the applicants.
And any board questions for Mr. DeFrias? Okay. Do we have the staff recommended approval, correct, Ms. Breck?
Yes.
I'm sorry about that. And then, do we have a motion to approve motion to endorse, I should say, for the board?
I'll make a motion to endorse.
By Mrs. Guarino. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
By Mr. McDonald. Any discussion? All in favor of the endorsement?
Roll call vote, Pat.
I'm sorry. So I'll take the roll call. Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mrs. Guarino,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. Ajemian,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Okay. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Next on the agenda, are you still sharing the screen? Did I lose that?
Oh, I apologize.
Could you just blow that up, please?
Oh, yeah, this is 152 Elm Street.
So this is essentially just reading through it. This is a modification request. Mrs. Farinacci?
Correct.
Is Mr. Gallagher or Mr. Graziano with us?
Mr. Gallagher here.
Mr. Gallagher. The floor is yours. Go ahead.
Okay. Evening. It's Frank Gallagher, Gallagher Engineering in Foxborough. And we've submitted an application, plans, and a couple of letters to you regarding some changes that have been made to the original approved site plan at 152 Elm Street. I submitted a letter on August 20th that summarized what those changes are. And just to fall back a minute, this was a site plan that was approved back toward the end of 2019 for a warehouse building on that property. So it's currently under construction, and there have been some, there are some changes that we'd like to get the board's approval on. And we'd like to do this process as a minor modification to the plan that was originally approved. So from my letter on the 20th of August, I list 6 points. The first thing to note is that the building has actually been reduced in size. It's 8 feet more narrow than it was originally approved to be. The building originally was 80 feet wide by 175 feet long. And then there's a small bump out in the front. But the building that was actually constructed or is under construction there is 72 feet wide. So it's actually been reduced. The pavement around that building has not been reduced. We're holding the original edge of pavements as were approved on the original site plan. Now, the next thing that I list is that we're asking for a change in use to a portion of the building. It was originally all approved as warehouse. It was proposed and approved as just one big warehouse building. But the owner applicant would like to add a restaurant use to the front portion of that building. So from the front, the first 25 feet of that building for the full width of it is being proposed now as a restaurant use. And then the remaining part of the building is going to just stay warehouse as it was originally approved. So that's our second item. To kind of accommodate the extra parking for a restaurant, we've increased the parking on site, and we've gone from what was originally approved, which was 17 spaces, to now we're proposing 26. So that allows for, a certain number of tables for the restaurant. The next item is that if you look at the original approval, the slab of the building was stepped down as you went away from Elm Street into the site. So if you were to travel, I guess, west or sort of southwest along the edge of the building, the slab inside was being stepped to a lower and lower grade as you went toward the rear. We are proposing that the building all be one elevation inside, so just one slab elevation and one foundation elevation as well. And those two elevations are shown on the modified plan. The next item is just that the entrances from Elm Street coming onto the project are just a little bit wider than what was originally approved. And the reason for that is that Elm Street was just recently reconstructed, and the curb cuts that were left as part of that construction are just a little bit wider than what we had originally proposed. So it just gives us a chance to make the radiuses at the entrance a little bit larger. So that's also a plus, I think. And then sort of a minor item, if you look in the lower right-hand corner of the plan, you'll see we've provided a detail for the retaining wall that is on the...
Gallagher, can I interrupt you for a minute?
Sure.
Ms. Farinucci, could you show that plan, please? I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. So as we're looking at the plan, maybe the easiest way to orient it is on the left side of the building, you can see that there's a detention basin there. And there's a retaining wall at the edge of the parking lot on the, let's see, I guess it would be sort of the north side of the retaining wall. It was always proposed to be a retaining wall. And it was proposed to have holes cored through the wall, I think 6-inch diameter holes every 8 feet in order to just let stormwater flow off the parking lot and into the basin. So Mr. Graziano actually makes retaining wall blocks as part of another business that he has. And he can basically make his own blocks, and rather than core a hole through a 2-foot wide block, what we're proposing is that we just create a notch in the top of the block that's 6 inches wide. So it's essentially sort of the same thing. It's just that he has the ability to precast these blocks in his own shop, and it's much simpler for him to do it that way than it is to core a hole through a 2-foot wide piece of concrete. So we did show a detail of that, and if you actually maybe scroll to the lower portion of the plan. Oh, okay, no, it's not on that. It's actually not on that plan. So, so in any case, I guess that's what we're asking the board to change in that regard. I submitted a second letter following up the filing, and it summarized the drainage impacts that this change would have. And if you look at the building, of course, is all fed into a recharge area. The stormwater from the roof of the building is fed into a recharge area right up at the front near Elm Street. Now we're reducing the size of the building, so that really means that less stormwater would be going into that recharge area. We're not proposing to reduce the recharge area, so if it worked for the larger building, it's certainly going to work for the reduced building. So that's one point to make. And if you look at the second paragraph, it summarizes the standard number 2 of the stormwater standards requires that you meet the existing peak rates of runoff. From the original report, you can see that at least in the case of the 2-year storm, the proposed peak rate is about half of what the existing one is. The 10-year storm, it's slightly more than half, and then the 100-year storm, which technically you don't actually have to meet the existing peak rate, but we usually try to meet that in any case. But you can see that that's close to 1 cubic foot per second less in the proposed conditions. So the small amount of impervious area that we're adding to the site isn't going to impact those peak rates, certainly not to a point where it drives them over the existing ones. So that's stormwater standard number 2. So I think with confidence, we can say that we still meet that standard with this modification. If you delve into that same report, we have a recharge volume. That's standard number 3, and the recharge amount is far in excess of what the standard calls for. So again, this small change in impervious area is still going to be met by the existing infrastructure that we've got on this site. And then standard number 4 is a stormwater volume. And again, the original design provides in excess of what the standard calls for. And this change that we're proposing would not drive us up to a point where we don't meet that standard. So essentially, all the stormwater standards are still met by this revised design. So given all of that, we're asking the board to just approve this as a minor modification to what they originally approved back in December of 2019.
So, Mr. Gallagher, can I, just a quick question?
Sure.
Some of the stuff we already approved as a minor modification, correct? Mr. Graziano was before us a couple of weeks ago for the restaurant, for some parking modifications, and that was already approved. And the only condition that we had imposed on him, I believe, was that if we were to put the patio that's still shown on this, that's what was triggering another stormwater review. And so we let it go as a minor modification. And if the patio became part of the equation at a later date, or any additional expansion, then you'd come back for a major. Isn't some of this already done, Mr. DeBobrian and Mrs. Farinacci, or am I losing my mind?
No, that
So
was
the-
accurate.
Yeah, the use requires a special permit in the zoning district, so that was received, I believe. I think, is this industrial E or no?
So it was a minor modification to the plan. There was some modification,
Right,
there's some modifications made.
right, but this number of parking spaces was not on the parking spaces had not changed in the modification previously. This increase in parking spaces is new, and the patio is new.
So,
And the guys are-
so Mr. Gallagher, do you have a plan showing us the difference between the approved parking and the proposed?
Well, I don't have one plan laid over the other. We'd have to just, I guess, look at the two of them side by side, but I can tell you where the changes are if you want to just stay on this plan.
So is that patio is still being shown? Is that being removed now, or is that still there?
Well, that patio's on the plan that I submitted to you as a modified site plan.
Right, but at the last hearing, we conditioned the site plan, we conditioned the minor modification and the special permit. So I think, so I just, if I'm correct, I think when the special permit and the modification came in for the patio, we sought outside, I think the board said that Mr. Graziano would have to have it reviewed for stormwater. At that point, we said, we didn't get a timely response, I should say, from the outside firm. We didn't want to hold it up. So we approved it. We approved the site plan and the minor modification. The minor modification was conditioned, though, I think that if the patio and other impervious area came back in, then it would trip that review. Is this correct? Do we have the decision in front anywhere on the?
I don't know if that was a specific, it might have been a conversation. I don't think that was a specific condition. I'll have to pull the decision. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, the patio had been taken off and we approved the restaurant with 3 tables.
That's
Okay,
correct.
is Mr. Antonero still with us?
Mr. Antonero cannot speak to this project.
Oh, that's what I was gonna ask. I didn't know if you could.
Mr. Chair, the thing that I am noticing, because I have the old plan that came before us on the 7th, July 7th, is first it's showing the bump out on the building to be closer to the walkway, to the drive aisle than what it's shown proposed.
Excuse me, Mrs. Farinacci, can you go back to the plan, please? Are you pulling something? All right, that's all right. I got it. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Geller. I'm sorry.
So from the old plan that they came before us doesn't have the patio from when they came on 7/7. Did they come after that?
No,
So it doesn't show the patio on the 7/7 plan. It doesn't show the stone dust parking areas in the front. And then for a conversation piece, Plan North, the parking spaces along the north side of the plan is 8. That originally on the one that we saw has 7.
Mhm.
And then down on the bottom, it shows 22. And we had 50, and they're showing, shows 9 to 22, and the other one shows 8 to 15, but does not include the 2 handicap spots on the end. And the original plan also shows trees in front of the building, approximately where the patio is.
I could have sworn though at the last meeting, the patio, maybe it was just the one that we had before us or shown before us in our packet, but I think it was.
I believe you are correct, Pat, because I do remember talking about a patio.
It did. So Mr. Gallagher, is this plan adding the patio as well or no?
This plan is proposing a patio. I understood that the applicant wanted that. So that's why I showed it on my plan. I could make, I guess, a couple suggestions. One is to give you a revised plan that removes it. Or two, if the stormwater is a concern, we could specify that the patio would be some pervious material that wouldn't create additional runoff.
All right, so any board, we have to determine if it's major or minor. I think the staff made a recommendation, correct?
Yes, I believe we recommended that due to the amount of it, the additional impervious surface, the amount of additional parking. We recommend that it be considered major so that we could have an outside firm look at the stormwater and the traffic circulation.
My only concern is where Mr. Antonero can't weigh in on this, and that's why I was just seeing if I could just ask him a general question, but that's all right. Is that if it takes, I think last time Mr. Graziano turned this in, it was a month before we actually determined we couldn't get a response for this. Is this something we could turn around between now and the 15th, do you think?
I don't know, we can certainly reach out to outside consultant tomorrow. I don't know what their schedule is and if their availability to get something back in 2 weeks. I can't answer that question without talking to somebody.
Would this delay, I mean, we've already approved the special permit for the restaurant to open. This would delay or would not delay the opening? If we don't get it.
I can answer that.
Mr. Gallagher, how far away from opening are they?
I don't know. I would say they're probably a month away. They're certainly not going to be opened, I don't think, within the next 2 weeks.
Chairman, I don't think we really have a choice here. Staff has recommended a major modification. I think we should go with that.
Any other board questions or comments?
I guess my concern here, no offense to Mr. Gallagher, it seems like there might be some kind of a little bit of a miscommunication here between Mr. Gallagher and Mr. Graziano, given that we had already approved part of this. I recall the conversation about the patio too, and now it's essentially coming back with, asking for some of the same modifications in a fashion that would make it a major. And I believe that's what Mr. Graziano was trying to avoid last time. Perhaps continuing this might be a better option at this point. Would be my line of thinking, so they could kind of figure out exactly what they want to do here.
And we
Well,
can do our part.
go ahead, Gene, I'm sorry.
And we can do our part.
Well, my only concern is that there's more impervious area. We were gonna send it for a major modification just for the patio. Now that we're adding the parking spaces, et cetera, and we don't have the benefit of in-house engineering to help us at this point, to confirm whether or not this works or not. So I think we need to have somebody look at, when Mr. Gallagher, when you said that it meets number 2 of the stormwater, does that mean our stormwater regulation, which is 90% pre and post runoff and rate and volume? Does it still meet that?
It still meets that as well, yes.
I would agree with Pat on that. If this is what they want to go forward with, I believe this would be a major modification.
Just one point, if I could, and if you look at the letter I submitted, really what it amounts to is, if we take the patio out of the equation, we're adding 256 square feet of impervious area overall. The building's reduced, the parking area, the paved area is increased just to meet the building. So So really, that's a wash, but with the additional parking spaces that we add, it amounts to 256 square feet of added pavement. So it's pretty minimal.
I have
I
a
think any
question.
engineer would really probably go along with that. But again, I know the board's, the staff's made a recommendation. I just want to try to maybe make sure that we've quantified it properly, it's pretty minimal.
How about? Somebody, I can't, I just see Mr. Gallagher. Somebody else trying to speak. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have a question. Originally what was proposed was just like what Gene said, it was a 3-table restaurant and the warehouse. So there wasn't much parking needed. And even then they had planned on providing more parking than what was originally required. Now we have like this fairly large expansion of parking. So I'm wondering what the plan is for that, what it's going to be used for. Is that for the warehouse or is the restaurant area being expanded?
Okay,
Aside of the
Well,
outside, tables that,
yeah. So let me just make sure as I understood it, the people who came requesting the restaurant use, that required a special permit to be approved to convert that space from warehouse to restaurant. So that was the process that they engaged in. I guess they showed some changes to the site plan as part of that. But from what I understood, the exercise was to obtain a special permit to just allow them to even have a restaurant as part of this building. So they did file that. They did get an approval to have the restaurant use. And then the way I understood it, we would then now follow up with the modified site plan, given the fact that we now have a different use for part of the building. So I don't know that, I don't know that they were locked into whatever they showed you as far as the site plan. And I don't know honestly exactly what they did show you, but the way I understood, this was a 2-step process. They had to first get their special permit because without that, there was no sense even having to expand the parking on site. Given that they did get that, I followed up with the modified site plan. Now, as far as, a 3-table restaurant wouldn't require as much parking as I've shown. But if they, choose to expand at some point in the future, and I understand they'd have to come back to the board if they wanted to do that. But we can fit the parking spaces that I've shown. If some of them go unused, that's fine, but it also gives the owner a chance to expand his restaurant sometime down the line if he chooses to do that.
I remember, and I don't have it in front of me, but I remember we evaluated parking to make sure it was adequate for the restaurant. And I remember that we talked about the patio, and that's, I thought we did kind of do a review of the site plan to make sure that it could handle the restaurant. And the addition of the patio was shown. And then we did, consider sending it out. We did ask for it to be sent out to an outside firm for a peer review. But we pulled that back because 1, we didn't get a timely response, and 2, Mr. Graziano was willing to remove the patio at this time. What about water quality, Mr. Gallagher? Does that change at all? The discharge and water quality or anything like that?
No, the water quality volume calculation was in excess of what the standard required. And so the additional pavement that we're proposing wasn't enough to create water quality volume that exceeded what's already been provided.
So can I ask a question why the 4 added parking spaces in the front of the building are made out of proposed to be stone dust and not asphalt?
Just to minimize the amount of impervious surface.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to note that I believe part of staff's recommendation wasn't strictly for the amount of impervious surface. It was the addition of, I believe, what is it, 9 additional parking spaces. And that's a tight site. And now we've got cars backing into each other when you've got cars parked across of each other. And so the traffic circulation issue would need to be looked at, I believe.
Do we have any other board questions? Thank you. Any other board questions?
I do think, Mr. Chairman, that it's difficult to talk about this without an outside, either a town engineer or an outside person making comments regarding the proposal. This is we're beyond ourselves here.
All right, if there's no, are there any other board questions? And if not, would Mr. Jimmy, do you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we make this a major modification.
Any second?
I'll second that.
By Mr. McDonald. So just for discussion, are there any more questions or comments? Okay, I'll take the roll call. Mr. Jimmy,
Yes,
Mrs. Garino,
she's,
Mrs. Garino,
Sorry, yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Okay, yes. But I would just ask that we do everything we can to try to get a timely response, and if not, move on perhaps to another peer review engineer so we can get this done quickly for them. And the last time it was over a month, so.
We'll make that a priority in the morning.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, members of the board, for hearing us tonight. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Geller.
Thank you.
So the other item on the agenda that we had was, I think just minutes, is that correct? Let me find my-
Now you have a bond release, I believe.
So we do we have a request for this from the applicant?
It was just an email request. So he came in and had a verbal request and then sent an email requesting the bond be released.
Okay, we have a copy of that somewhere.
I believe I do.
He's asking for
Where the street was accepted last year, so I believe they're asking for, or earlier this year, so they're asking for the entirety.
so what is the amount?
That is,
And then we need to make sure we retain, how many drainage basins are there? Like 2 or 1?
That's an old subdivision, I don't know off the top of my head.
Because we have to withhold, what, 5,000 at least?
yes, we have to retain $5,000 for the maintenance of the stormwater on the site.
Is Mr. Engineer on the line still?
Yes.
So is that 5,000 per, how many infiltration beds or drainage recharge areas are there? Are there 2, one in Bridgewater? Is there 1 in Bridgewater, 1 in East Bridgewater? Are there 2 in Bridgewater? How is that set up?
Which location are we, which location are we discussing here?
Well,
It's Elwood No. 2.
How much
Oh, okay.
do we just withhold 5,000 for that drainage maintenance?
Well, I believe they have 2 drainage basins there, so it'll be 5,000 per basin.
That's what I was at. So do we know the amount and then how much we take off or?
No, it's 5,000, whatever, well, take out 10,000, and then the rest of it, release that. Because
I believe-
the council has already accepted the road.
I believe Jasmine has the total amount from the treasurer's office, right, Jasmine?
I do. I apologize. I was looking for the email as well as the total, but give me just a moment. I'll pull up the total.
Somewhere, did I make up the number? 46,000.
I have the email up. Okay. I'll share the email of Jasmine while you look for the total.
Thank you.
You can see my email.
Yes.
So it just is an email from Michelle Oliveira, who is from PK Boston, the attorneys. Well, the roadway was accepted on June 29th. I am following up to see what is needed in order to release the bond. Thank you.
How much it is though?
What was that? I couldn't hear you.
Do we know how much? we're going to release?
Yeah, Jasmine's looking for that tool right now. I know she did get the number from the treasurer's office.
So currently there's $43,447.96. Oh, I'm sorry, $43,451.77. So we would be releasing 38,451.77 if you're retaining $5,000 for the catch basins.
5,000 per,
We're retaining 10.
10,000.
No, we're not retaining 10.
Yes, we are, Jasmine. 5,000 per basin.
5,000 per
Oh,
basin.
per basin. I apologize. I apologize. Where is that? Jennifer, can I ask a question about that later?
Mhm.
Thank you.
We're pretty sure there are 2 located in the town of Bridgewater.
There are 2 drainage basins for the project, so. One on Upland Road and one on Strathmore Road.
In your interpretation, just to be clear, I heard you before, just so everybody understands, that's 5,000 per basin, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
That's correct, because if you have, a good example is if you have like a Oldfield Estates, and you have, where you have like 4 drainage basins, you're not gonna charge 5,000 for the 4 basins.
Okay.
Okay, that will not be consistent with what we did with the other locations, so.
Yeah.
I will suggest that you release the 33,000 and whatever it is and keep 10,000. And then I can always revisit the, because I believe there's Strathmore Road traverses both communities. So drainage basin, I believe, goes through it's in Bridgewater. But I just want to verify the town line for that.
All right, so for this evening, we can release all of it, the 10,000 your recommendation.
Correct, retain 10,000. Because if you release and only keep 5,000, if we verify that it's in Bridgewater, at that point, they're not going to be sending you a check for $5,000 because the road is already been accepted. So I would rather err on the side of caution right now.
Any board discussion or questions on this?
Sounds logical to me. I agree with Lou on that one.
Yeah.
And I know we recommended it, but the town council did vote to accept it as a public way, correct?
Correct.
That's correct. The roads are already accepted and we've already added them to our maintenance schedule for the town, for the DPW.
Any other board questions? Do we have a motion to release the balance of the bond except for $10,000, which will hold for drainage maintenance?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
By Mr. Geller. So Mrs. Farinacci, just to confirm, that'll be around $43,400 roughly and change?
Correct.
The
33.
balance would be
Would be
33.
33.
Right, 33,400 and change. Did I say 43? I'm sorry.
Yes, it'll be $33,451.77 that you'll be releasing.
Right.
10,000 for stormwater maintenance. Okay. So any other discussion?
I will agree to this. I just want to bring up a point which I brought up a number of times, and that is that we retained $5,000 for detention basins cleanup. And I question whether we ever used it for any cleanup. I don't know. Seems to me that they should be used. Detention basins need to be cleaned. That's all. Just a side comment.
I wonder who's responsible for that in the town.
It'll be the DPW, Mr. McDonald.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And we have a motion, a second. Any more discussion? Mrs. Garina?
Yes.
Geller?
Yes.
I believe Pat froze up on us there.
Oh, Michael, do you want to?
No.
Oh, he's back.
So I said Mr. Jimmy, and that's where I froze, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy is yes. And Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
And I'm a yes, okay. All right, minutes we're gonna revisit later on.
Yes.
Could I just make one comment about the minutes?
Sure.
I quickly looked at them. I think that obviously the minutes that Les provided us were extensive and very detailed. I think we need something close to that going into the future to so that we can go back and see what we've said before. That's all. Thank you.
Anything? So, Mr. Jimmy, and I did talk to Mrs. Burke about similar concerns today, so I think she's gonna address.
That'll be, Mr. Chairman, sorry, that'll be Mrs. DeBoerbrand,
Oh,
not Mrs. Burke.
That's okay.
I said Mrs. DeBoerbrand a couple times today, and I said Miss Burke a couple times. I'm sorry. Old habits die hard, right?
Fine.
So it's gonna be addressed, so. Do we have any other board committee comments? Do we have a motion to adjourn
So moved.
by Mr. Jimmy,
Second.
by Mrs. Garino? So I'll do Mrs. Garino,
Yes.
Mr. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. McDonald,
Yes.
Mr. Jimmy,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. So good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good luck with the storm, everyone.
Yeah.